and welcome to Rottedween Reviews, and we are continuing on with Patron Appreciation Month through October, where I have made an inquiry to all of my Patreon subscribers asking them, what movies do you want me to watch and review? It's just my way of kind of showing a little bit of appreciation for the folks that have given me that little bit of extra support in my time here. And today's selection comes from patron supporter Michael Hammond, who has suggested the 2001 Japanese movie, The Happiness of the Katakuris. Now, just first impression, looking at the poster and so forth, this movie looked to be a bit wacky. And I'm no stranger to Japanese humor and Japanese comedy shows and so forth. Apologies in advance for any mispronunciations. I really am just doing my level best here. But I enjoy watching the Gaike no Suke no Laughing Batsu games. Which, if you haven't seen them, highly recommend checking them out. Documental, which is actually currently on Amazon Prime, at least 3 seasons of it or so. I really do enjoy this. It's a very over-the-top, in-your-face, loud, obnoxious almost. Well, yes, actually crosses the line into obnoxious fairly readily and easily. But it's a very loud, grand type of humor. And it doesn't necessarily go with what I consider to be good horror comedy always. When I think of good horror comedies, I actually tend to think of the comedy aspect of it to be a bit, well, subtle and clever and so forth, not big, loud, clown honky noises. As an example, I know that it's not horror, but it was disturbing nonetheless, but I was really not a big fan at all of Funky Forest. So then, I went ahead and looked a little bit further at The Happiness of the Katakuris, and I saw the director, and that really threw me. If you had asked me to name 25 directors that I think might have made this movie, I guarantee you that in no world of reality would I have ever picked Takashi Miike. But here we are. The director of Audition, the director of Ichi the Killer. I was apprehensive. I'm just going to lay that out. I was apprehensive. I was not really wanting to watch another Funky Forest directed by Takashi Miike. That sounded just not really exactly my taste. But I am pleased to report that in spite of myself, I really did enjoy The Happiness of the Katakuris. It is wacky, make no mistake. This is a very slapsticky kind of comedy. It's the kind of thing where they're just not afraid to go really weird with things when they have an action sequence that takes them just a little bit too outside of comfort zones as far as just human interactions and so forth. Fuck it. Switch over to claymation. Why not? Oh, and it's a musical to boot. So in this movie, we are introduced to the family of the Katakuris, which is basically 4 generations trying to make it by in this little resort complex, basically a house that they're serving up as hotel rooms out in the remote mountainside. They bought the place cheap, fixed it up, cleaned it up, and are now trying to hang an open for business sign out and get guests in. Which would be going pretty well if the guests that they were getting in didn't keep dying. Moreover, in order to not associate their hotel with death in the newspapers and local gossip, they decide that the best course of action is not to call the police, but to try and hide the bodies and pretend it never happened. Now, for those of you that are used to Takashi Miike's style of horror just by watching Ichi the Killer and Audition, I would have to say that you should be definitely in a different mindset with this one. The horror here isn't really that loud and abrupt and unabashed. It's much less slash 'em up, arterial spray, and torture scenes, and much more just dealing with the humor of trying to dispose of corpses, that level of kind of horrific comedy. But then you intersperse in the slapsticky comedic elements. The musical numbers that are very lavish. And yeah, the switch is over to claymation. And you just wind up with a movie that I really enjoyed, again, in spite of myself. I didn't think that I would like it, and I try not to have any preconceptions when I go into a movie, but just knowing what I did about it, I was, like I said, I was apprehensive, and in spite of myself, I wound up watching all the way through the end credits with a smile on my face. This brought out some feel-good notions in me at a moment in my life, honestly, where I was really wanting something, needing something even, to bring out that feel-good feeling. I'm not going to lie to you and say that this is going to be to everybody's taste, even for those that are looking for a happy-go-lucky comedy that has some, their horror stuff mixed in with it. This is definitely not the type of humor that you might be used to just dealing with American horror comedies, and the comedic elements of this could be considered to be a bit off-putting to some folks, just with how wacky it can get. But if you perhaps are in the place where you might be looking for a good chuckle and something to warm the cockles of your heart, I honestly think that it's at least worth a shot. Occasionally, life is about risk and opening yourself up to other cultures and other experiences, and at least trying them. And I can't think of a better recommendation than The Happiness of the Katakuris as far as giving it a shot, seeing where it lands with you. So thank you very much, Michael Hammond, for bringing this one up and bringing it to my attention and allowing me to review it. Thank you for watching this video, and remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.